with, of course, the YouTube jailbreak with the P2JB or Patience to Jailbreak implementation, which allows us to jailbreak the PS5 up to firmware 12.40 with the YouTube application. So this has had a number of updates. Previously, I covered the fact that the wait time has gone from 2 hours to load the jailbreak down to 50 minutes, but we still had the issue where closing the YouTube application would crash the console. Well, that's now been fixed as of version 2.3. You can see closing the YouTube host app no longer kernel panics the console. So you can close the YouTube application and still be fine and still be running the jailbreak on the console. But since then, we've had version 2.4, 2.5, 2.5.1, 2.5.2, and now 2.6. So 2.6 does seem to be a lot more stable than some of the previous versions I've tried to run. And it's also now implementing the YouTube jailbreak version 1.5, which was a recent update also added for the YouTube jailbreak by Gajine here. So all you have to do is, of course, download the backup file and restore that backup file onto the console, load up the YouTube application, and that'll load Y2JB version 1.5. And then from there, of course, you can just download the latest P2JB.js file from the repo here, and then simply open up Netcat GUI or some payload injector, drag in the file, the P2JB.js file, enter 50,000 as the port number, and make sure your IP address of your PS5 is entered in the host box, and then inject the payload. That sends the kernel exploit over to the PS5, and it will start running, and you have to wait around about 50 minutes, give or take a few minutes, and then it should load the kernel exploit if it's successful on the first run. And then once it's done here, as you can see, I can exit back out to the home screen. I have the debug settings enabled, so that means we are fully jailbroken here. We have the jailbreak up and running, and I'm now able to close the YouTube application without having to worry about it crashing the console. And as you can see, the PS5 is still running. It definitely feels considerably more stable than it did previously. Now, another big improvement here is that there was also an issue where if you tried to run one of your PlayStation 5 games, it would crash the console. And this was an issue that was introduced into most of the jailbreak methods in one of the previous updates. This has now been fixed in the latest update that's now been rolled out to the YouTube jailbreak, the Blu-ray exploit, as well as other exploit methods too. So you can see that the YouTube jailbreak version 1.5 here, this now adds the fix. So we have update kernel exploit with IOMMU fix and uses the elf loader version 0.23 from the official repo. And then also the BD Unjailbreak project for the Blu-ray exploit also has implemented the same fix here as well. And if we go to the autoloaders, we have itsplk's Blu-ray autoloader. This is the Blu-ray exploit I normally use up to 12.0 here. So with this one, it's now been updated, fixes the kernel panic when launching PS5 games, thanks to cow-ar and UFM42. And then also, of course, the same for the YouTube jailbreak autoloader as well, for anybody using the lapsed kernel exploit up to 10.01. You have the fix there as well, fixes kernel panic when launching PS5 games. So that's been implemented there too. So now closing the YouTube application no longer kernel panics the console, and also running your PlayStation 5 games. If you update to the latest versions here that have the fix applied, it should no longer crash the console when loading your PlayStation 5 games either. So some major stability improvements there. Now beyond that, we're starting to get the autoloaders implemented now for the exploits. So itsplk's updating the PS5 Lua loader to introduce the Patience to Jailbreak version. So we've got P2JB test build. So it is a test build right now at the time I'm recording this. But the idea, of course, is to get a full release of this where we'll now be able to use the Lua exploit with an autoloader that will autoload Patience to Jailbreak when you load your Japanese Lua game, and then also run whatever payloads you put in your autoloader folder on the root of a USB or in the data folder, and it can autoload those for you. That way you don't have to send the payloads manually. Kind of streamlines the whole jailbreaking process, so that's getting added there. I'm sure we'll see the same for the YouTube jailbreak too. So next we have an update to the WebKit vulnerability, the one that was posted by Nathan Fargo. This is the one that looks most promising to potentially be turned into a full WebKit exploit that we could then use to jailbreak the console just with the web browser, which would be fantastic. So it's the use after free in CSS font face. And this commit here seems to have actually finally patched it. So it seems this WebKit vulnerability has now been patched. So this commit made to the official WebKit project. But of course, the PS4 and PS5, they will not get this patch until they release new firmware updates. So whenever the next firmware updates come out for the PS4 and PS5, we will likely see this patch applied to WebKit to prevent us from being able to do anything with this vulnerability on those higher firmwares, but at least up to the latest firmwares currently, 13.20 on the PS5 and 13.50 on the PS4, it should still be vulnerable. But it's definitely looking pretty promising that we may actually finally see a new WebKit exploit here for the PlayStation 5 and maybe PS4 fairly soon. So a couple of other developments. We got the hypervisor dumps from Jordi, so 5.xx hypervisor dumps. We have a hypervisor elf file. I believe you can run this to disable the hypervisor. Of course, we knew that there was already a hypervisor exploit because the Linux payloads were updated to support firmwares up to 6.02, and that requires disabling the hypervisor to be able to load Linux. So that was already available within the Linux payload, but now we actually have the raw payloads we can run to just disable the hypervisor without loading Linux. Not only that, but we'll probably see a new homebrew enabler or hen version get developed that works now up to firmware 5.50, where we'll be able to, run our PS4 fake packages, homebrew applications, PlayStation 5 game dumps without relying on KStuff, as KStuff does have performance impacts and some other issues, whereas we can completely disable the hypervisor on firmwares up to 5.50 now and be able to, load those games without any of that kind of performance impact that KStuff has. We also have some updates to PS5 Linux. So I found this PS5 Linux image project that contains a bunch of additional distros that have been added. So you can build distros to run on the PS5. So initially it was just Alpine, Arch, Akashi OS, and Ubuntu. But there is a Bazzite port as well as Debian, lots of different Debian ports for KDE, GNOME, Proxmox, a server version, XFCE. And then you also have the same for Fedora and Mint as well. So quite a few new distros that you can get up and running on your PlayStation 5 if you prefer a different flavor of Linux to run on the console, which is great. And there's also been an improvement to the M.2 performance. So this was committed by The Flow here, which is a fix for the M.2 performance by aligning the LBA. So you can basically rerun the install script. I think you have to reinitialize and reinstall Linux on the M.2 drive in order to apply this fix. But this should give you some improved performance when running Linux directly off an M.2 SSD that's installed internally in the console. So we have even more updates to Elf Arsenal, which of course was previously known as Sonic Loader from Sonic ISO. This latest version here was updated by Stoned Modder, which adds a number of new developments in here. We have some web UI enhancements, including virtual DualSense controller. So if we take a look at this here, if we go into the settings, system, peripherals and controllers, we've got a virtual DualSense controller. So you can literally attach this and then use this to navigate your PS5. If you don't have a controller connected, you can use this just to be able to do some basic stuff in the menus, I guess. You wouldn't really play a game with this. You also have this HID dumper to monitor all of the button presses that you make on the console. So it's got a bunch of stuff there as well. PS5 beeper and LED controller. So you can customize things like how loud the beeper volume is when you hit the power button or eject button on the console. You can mute the beeper. You've got different beeper patterns that you can change, as well as the console LED brightness that you can adjust here now as well. So quite a few new options added there too. You've got your reboot options here, reboot, power off, put the console into rest mode or eject. So you can do all of this remotely from this web panel. We also have the new cheat runner that's been added. So when you go to the cheats, it looks completely different to the previous version. And this is the cheat runner from Major that has now been just attached and implemented in here to the Elf Arsenal project. So you can apply your cheats for your games. So you can launch your games remotely from within here and then open up the cheats and then select any cheats that you want to enable for your games. You can see all the cheats show up here. You can also download them directly. You can go to the repositories and download all of the cheat sources. There's a bunch of different ones. There's the Hen cheats collection, or just PS5 cheats, or just the Gold Hen cheats, which are only for PS4 games. And then the collection downloads, I think, a mix of both. So yeah, you can go ahead and, download all the sources, get all of the cheats downloaded. So then when you open up the cheats for any game that has cheats available for it, you'll have the menu here with all of the different cheats that you can enable and disable for your games. You can just toggle them on and off to enable and disable those cheats. So that's now been added there into Elf Arsenal as well. So lots of great updates here. This is getting updated constantly, like every few hours it seems like there's new stuff being added to this. which is fantastic. So loads of updates here. I hope you guys aren't getting bored of all of the update videos, but there's probably going to be a few more to come here because there is just so much happening right now with the PlayStation 5 scene. I do feel a bit sorry for the PlayStation 4 people, but you know, unfortunately, this new kernel exploit was only for the PS5. It did not affect the PS4, but you know, hopefully we will get something for PS4 soon enough. But anyway, that's going to do it here for this video. So hope you guys enjoyed this video or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I will hopefully see you guys